Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. And a few hours ago, I showed you a couple new Pokemon Search cards, which are coming, we assume, in the Sword and Shield expansion. That's not confirmed, but we assume that they are. And I told you I had another couple of cards that were extremely exciting to share with you. So let's have a chat now. Now, quick reminder, as in the previous video, my source on this has asked to remain anonymous, which is not terribly surprising, but essentially, stores over in Japan get given information about some upcoming cards to build a bit of hype for the set, get them ordering, etc, etc. And then of course they tell some of their local players and the news leaks out. It's somewhat inevitable. Now, I cannot show you pictures of the cards and I cannot prove that these cards are actually coming, but this is the same kind of information I used in my Sceptile video and my Dedenne video and my Nanu video, and my Professor Al's lecture video, and all of those came exactly as we expected them to. So I cannot prove it other than to say I'm using the same sources as I have before, and they worked out fine then. So what have we got? Well, we've got an unnamed Pokemon tool card that reads, the retreat cost of the Pokemon this card is attached to is reduced by 2. Nice. Now, one thing about this makes me especially sad, and that is the fact that the Beware coming in Cosmic Eclipse literally has this as an ability. Your active Pokemon's retreat cost is reduced by 2. And I thought maybe there was finally some hope for Beware. No, because this tool is just going to blow Beware out of the water. Now, let's be clear, this tool is not Floatstone. It is not as good as Floatstone was. Floatstone just plain gave you free retreat. This is a fairly weaker version of Floatstone. Though to be fair, the fact that we're getting this kind of proves conclusively we aren't getting Floatstone again. Now, that's not to say that we will never get Floatstone again, but it is to say that in the foreseeable future, we ain't getting Floatstone. But it's better than the alternatives. Now, when I say better than the alternatives, we need to be specific about what we mean here. So, if we take something like a skateboard or U-turn board, they are the two tools we have for retreating at the moment. And both of them reduce your retreat cost by 1, whereas this new tool reduces your retreat cost by 2. So, in terms of just retreating, the new one is better. But this new one just reduces your retreat cost. It doesn't do anything else. Whereas U-turn board, if it gets discarded from play, let's say the Pokemon to which it is attached gets knocked out, then it goes back to your hand, ready to attach to another Pokemon to reduce their retreat cost. And a skateboard might only reduce your retreat cost by 1, but it also allows you to retreat while asleep or paralyzed. So if you take something like Jirachi, for instance, Jirachi's got that phenomenal ability. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, find a trainer card, put it in your hand, Jirachi goes to sleep. And it's got a retreat cost of 1, so any of these cards would give it free retreat, but it needs to retreat while asleep. That's where a skateboard comes in. So for something like Jirachi, you're still going to use a skateboard. But the thing is, this new tool helps out a whole new generation of Pokemon, pun intended. So take something like the Volcanion from Unbroken Bonds. This Volcanion sees a lot of play in Reshiram and Charizard decks, because if you go second on your first turn of the game, you can attach free fire energy from your deck to your Pokemon in any way that you like. Problem, retreat cost of 2. So something like a skateboard or U-turn board can be used, but you've got to discard another energy to do so. Yeah, don't worry about it. This will give you free retreat. Something like Blacephalon, for instance, comes in with a retreat cost of 2, so you may well end up mucking about a bit, having to retreat your active Blacephalon, but that's alright, you'll totally be able to. Something like Zapdos in Lightning decks, retreat cost of 2, this will give you free retreat. And especially if you're playing some of these techs that are kind of awkward, that you really just want to get out the active, this has got your back in a way that other cards just don't. And the decision with this card is incredibly simple. If all you're looking to do is retreat, this is better than the alternatives. No issues with that at all. But it's not always that simple, because it's not just about retreating. Sometimes, like Jirachi needs a skateboard. Other times, retreating is so vital, and you've got single cost Pokemon, and you know what? Then you probably need U-turn board. And the fact of the matter is that if all you want to do is retreat single retreat cost Pokemon, I can't really suggest this over U-turn board, because the fact that it gets bumped to your hand when it gets discarded, yeah, it's too good. So the decision is basically this. Do you ever need to retreat anything with a retreat cost of more than 1? For some decks, the answer is generally going to be no, in which case, fine. But anytime you do, this becomes better than the alternative. I told you that the cards I was showing you today, or telling you about I suppose more than showing you, were going to change the game, we're going to shape up the meta. I meant that very sincerely. For a lot of decks, this will be hands down the best option for retreating, by which I mean it actually gives you a viable option for retreating when you didn't have one. But the last card, and I'm afraid that I was only told about 4, and this is the last one, but this one, this one's spicy. It is an hitherto unnamed item card, and it reads, you may play this card only if one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Draw cards until you have 7 cards in hand. That, ladies and gentlemen, is phenomenal. This is item draw. An item draw generally kind of sucks. Now look, we have item draw, but not to this kind of level. So we could look at something like Acrobike, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one in your hand, discard the other one. Not even close in terms of how great this one is. Or we could talk about Custom Catcher, that lets you draw until you've got 3 cards in your hand. The thing is, you will often have a hand of 2, 3, 4 cards. Which means for something like Custom Catcher, you might be drawing 1. Whereas for this, you'll be drawing 3, 4, 5 cards. That is the difference here. And it is a phenomenal difference. Generally speaking, when we get draw cards at our item cards, they are underwhelming. Bicycle was another one that we got. And Bicycle just let you draw until you had 4 cards in your hand. Or Roller Skates that let you draw 3 cards if you could flip heads. This blows all of these other ones out of the water. And as a side note, if you look at the theme here, this is probably going to be some kind of roller skate / bicycle / whatever card. It's likely to be some mode of transport, because that's what we've seen on item draw cards in the recent past. But as I've just shown you, and to be clear, right, all the cards I've just shown you all saw play. Because sometimes you want to go fast, and you want to speed up, and you can only play one supporter card during your turn, unless you're in Standard and use Lieutenant Surge's strategy. Because it's banned and expanded. Though I suppose in expanded you can use Magnezone if you so wish. The point is, item draw is phenomenal because it allows you to draw cards without using your supporter, which firstly gives you more options for drawing cards, and secondly gives you an opportunity to draw the supporter that you want using the item card. Now, it does only work if you had a Pokemon KO during your opponent's previous turn, but that shouldn't really worry you. Ages ago, we were all playing the Retaliate Terrakion, and that went just fine. I think I might have played it more than most, but still we used it. Rosa is a card which is coming out in Cosmic Eclipse, and if you had a Pokemon KO during your opponent's previous turn, you can search for a Pokemon and a trainer and a basic energy, and that has been seeing a lot of play over in Japan. As a side note, this makes a phenomenal combo with Rosa. Because you're only playing Rosa if you had a Pokemon KO during your previous turn anyway. So you know that this item card is going to be activated. So why would you not grab one of these and then potentially Rosa searches for a Pokemon and a basic energy, and then you get to draw 4, 5, 6 cards in addition to it? I cannot be the only one that thinks that's a rather phenomenal combo. It's probably not a 4 in a bunch of decks, because it is usable only when you had a Pokemon KO during your opponent's previous turn. Incidentally, Lance Prism Star would be another really nice example of a card that has that requirement. And in Dragon decks, Dragon decks don't see a huge amount of play, incidentally, but in Dragon decks, that is basically a staple. It's a phenomenal card that everybody plays. I don't think this is a card for every single deck, but I do believe it is a phenomenal card. If you're playing Rosa, it's a given. You've got to play this. It's too gosh darn good. If you're trying to go for a speed deck and you're trying to draw some items, this is really nice. Also, right, let's not forget that if you're playing a single prize Pokemon deck, you're going to have more Pokemon KO'd before your opponent wins, which means there's going to be more times during the game where this can actually fire off and work. It's really cool. If you're using big tag team GX decks and you're not playing Rosa, I could see you not playing it. But honestly, even if you're playing like a Reshiram and Charizard deck, imagine playing a Welder, attaching 2 energy from your hand, drawing from, say, a hand of 0 up to 3, and then having this card, playing it, now you got a hand of 2 and you draw 5 cards. This draws you as many cards as Yuxi did. It's actually 1 more than Shaymini X. It draws you as many cards as Miss Magius does. And those are good cards that we've played. Make no mistake about it, this might not fit into every deck perfectly, but this is a phenomenal card. Again, I'm not giving WotC scores until we've got images of the cards and we're doing our proper analysis videos, but these are both 5 WotC cards. The latter more so than the former. Maybe we can drop the retreating item down, but honestly, I still see this seeing play in a huge amount of decks. These cards that have leaked today are redonkulously exciting, and I, for one, am delighted. But I'd like to know how you feel about them. So please let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. And do please make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WotCplays, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, etc. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.